about inside of that parameter and how that works. And so that's why when I can confidently say, if you want to be the best business owner you can be, you got to go for it. But it's inside of that parameter. Gosh. Just got to get that clap in.
You told me it was important to a podcast.
It is important. We've been dealing with a sick child this evening. Oh, sorry. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Zach. This is my reminding wife, Montana.
Reminding? I used to get beautiful and lovely. Now I get reminding.
Well, whenever you remind me over and over again.
Sorry, it's fourth podcast. I figured you gotta.
You get reminding. Got it.
There was a stray bug.
Yeah, we have really weird weather right now. And so there's it's like cold, but we have mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's Arkansas.
Yeah, but it's weird. I don't understand it. But anyway, so we had to restart because our dogs decided they were going to corner something in the backyard. Yeah. And I had to go out and get them.
They're feral beasts for sure. Little fluff balls.
Yeah, our two huskies who've never lived outside longer than like 20 minutes at a time. So.
Yes. Well, since Zach still didn't do it, I'll do it. This is our fourth podcast of The Kids Are in Bed. Or when the kids, what do we call it?
See, that's why I don't say it, because it's whatever it is.
The kids are in bed. The kids are in bed. I remember.
I don't know. I'd have to look on YouTube, because.
Sorry. Yeah, so it's The Kids Are in Bed. And one of them is right now watching him right there. The other one, 17-year-old, disappeared. He's in the room somewhere. So we're just going to say he's in bed. And it may or may not be the fourth episode. Depends on how and when I edit these. That's true.
So
just cut that part.
But yeah, welcome back to the podcast. We are the Rustenbergers, and these are just the conversations that we have, honestly, when our kids go to bed, before we go to bed, and things that we think through and talk through. I would like to think that we are fairly conscious people.
I don't know.
And we like to think through things that are going on, things we see, and contemplate decisions we make and stuff like that. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
We're
Actually, tonight we were dealing with a sick kid.
Yes.
Our 2-year-old, our toddler, had the stomach bug. And I hate, seeing him sick. I really don't like when he doesn't feel good. But he's actually a pretty decent baby when he's sick. He doesn't really cry or like whine a lot. He takes being sick like a boss. Like he does really well, but it's still not good as a parent. You want your kids to feel better. But there's also that part of me. I don't know if that makes me like selfish or a bad parent. That's really like, I really don't want to get what you have. Like I want to take care of you and like do all the snuggles and clean up all the stuff, but I really don't want to get this because it looks really awful and I feel like it's worse as an adult.
I don't think it's selfish. I think that's a silly way to look at it, because I think that for you as a human, you're still a human, so you're going to not want to be sick. Yes. You're like innately designed to like want to be well and not want to be sick. So even when you see your kid sick and you're like, I don't want that. If you were like, if it gets me, it gets me. Like, oh, okay. Like I
know.
don't
There's
think
like
that's
those moms
silly.
like, oh yeah, like I wipe their snot with my hand and catch the vomit with my hands, and I'm like, no.
I mean, you would. That's the thing. You would if the need was there for you to. But it's not.
As someone who's caught vomit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not, you would if you needed to, but I don't want to be sick either.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's silly to think that that's like wrong, that you don't want to be.
Good.
Which, with that kind of feeds into our conversation we were talking about before we started about like Easter's coming up. And so we have traditions. You work at a church, I serve at a church. And so we spend, our Sundays are there.
Half a Saturday too.
On Easter, yes. But I'm saying just on every Sunday, we are there. And that's, for a lot of families, I think that's a pretty typical, like, let's go out to lunch, let's go get dinner type of day. And frankly, like last Sunday, I got there at 7:30 and I essentially left there at 7:30 that night. Yeah. And so, sometimes it's just not going to work. And Easter is one of those times where it just doesn't work. And we were talking about getting rid of, or how to view kind of like family ritual versus your relationship and your religion.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to put it? Or did you have a different thought on how you would word that?
No, I guess we're also like maneuvering family members who want to keep tradition alive. We've always done it this way, so we want to eat lunch and eat dinner at this time, and we always want to do it this way and at this place. But what I found, we've only been in ministry a few years. I was like, whatever plans we try to make are always never really work out when it comes to stuff like that. And so we decided, after we've been in ministry for a little bit, we were like, you know what, we're not putting expectations on things like that anymore. And it was a lot of hard conversations with our family, kind of like the conversation you have with your family when you first get married, like now we have, instead of one Thanksgiving, we have 3 Thanksgivings, right. And we got to split time and stuff like that. So it felt similar to me with that, like talking to all the family, like, hey, it's not just my job, it's the church, and we want to be serving, the lost in our community at these things. And so that does cut into our traditional times and things like that.
I think you have to look at it like this. I think you have to look at it in like your hierarchy of your life and where things are important and where things line up. We made the decision a few years ago that that's going to be the number one thing for us. So I like Wednesday nights, even when we're not doing stuff, I don't schedule anything on Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our son's not allowed to work on Wednesday nights or Sunday mornings.
Even when we're not. Got it. Sorry. We'll clean that up later.
Sure, we will.
But yeah, Wednesday nights and Sundays, I just don't schedule anything. Now, if we get a free afternoon on a Sunday, we will do things. I'm not saying that we just like want or find more work to do, because there's always more work to do.
Yeah.
But I don't schedule anything on those days. And it works out, because then when we have opportunities to have events, we can do them on those days. When we have the opportunity to reach people and to talk to people, we get to. And if we don't schedule anything, we don't allow anything to fill those 2 slots. There's never a question, we're not going to be there.
Yeah.
And so Sunday's been the hardest, because traditionally our family like to get together on Sunday. And so we've essentially just had to, and sometimes it still doesn't seep through. But we have to have conversations where it's like, hey, we just can't do Sunday. We just don't do Sunday.
Yeah. And it's not that we don't want to spend time with our family, because of course we do. We love our family. Everybody that's in our family, we love our family. We want to spend time with them. But it's it's like the tradition of it. Why does it have to be at this specific day, at this specific time? Like, we can celebrate the resurrection of Jesus whenever we want. Like, it can be Easter dinner, or it can be Saturday night dinner before Easter, kind of things like that. But also, like, another good one's like Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. Like, our Mother's Day happens at night because we're doing church all day and we're pouring into the moms of our community and things like that. So I know that's kind of that's been hard to maneuver. And, at first I felt like we would get annoyed with it. Like, gosh, why do y'all not understand? This is like what we're doing. This is the new thing. But really, we had to take a step back and think of it from their point of view. Like, we're the one that changed the game. Like, ever since you've been a kid and you've grown up, you always did this certain things with your family, and so did I. So then when we got married, we still had to maneuver that, but there were still traditions like, okay, well, mom's taking this day and dad's taking this day and the in-laws have this day, kind of thing. And then we got into ministry and we changed it again. So actually this whole time we've been changing it. So we're actually the difficult ones.
Yes, but I think it's important to realize too, in that, like, hey, if you're called to do something, go do it. If you're called to do something and you're letting little things get in the way, and frankly, dinner with your family is a little thing. Like, should you want to spend time with your family? Yes. I'm not disputing that, but I am saying that, like, sometimes things are more important. And you may, if you feel called to do something, you're willing to risk some things. And for me, like, I'm willing to risk dinner or lunch or whatever with my family at times to do what I think God's asking me to do.
Yeah.
And and for them, they're not, and that's fine. They're not called to do that. They're not called to spend that time. And so we have to get, especially as people who are on mission, we have to get comfortable with the fact that sometimes people are just going to be a little upset with you. Sometimes you're going to miss things.
Yeah.
But it's where your importance lies. It's where your value and your time and energy. There's people in the business world who they value every moment of their life by the dollar figure that's attached to that time. And so, like, if they are worth $200 an hour, they're not going to go do something that's worth $100 an hour because it's a waste of their time. So I think when we think about it, it's the same idea in ministry terms, but instead of it being a dollar figure, it's a mission, figure. I don't know how we would put a sign on that.
it's a lost
It's an
person.
opportunity.
It's a lost person. It's a struggling family. It's someone that you can care for and pour into. But I think it's also, family is a very important, thing in your life. It's a very important relationship. But there's also the spiritual family. There's also, God the Father and, our brothers and sisters in Christ that are also part of our family. And so I think that, you think that you're missing out on something like, oh, I didn't get to make the Easter lunch or and things like that, but you still have your spiritual family.
You are missing it.
Yeah,
you are missing out. There is a meal that's taking place. There's camaraderie. There's connection that your family's making, and you're not there.
Yeah.
So you are missing that. But you're right. There is this other aspect where you have this spiritual family that you're connected to, and that has time, energy, and effort. Any relationship, any family that you're a part of, it takes investment in that family to build those connections and those relationships. And I'm not saying that you should forgo spending time with your family every single day for your mission and vision, because I think at some point you have to spend that time investing in your family. So whether we get to do it on Sunday afternoon or we have to move it to Monday, we may have to miss something else on Monday to go have that meal. And we have to be diligent in investing that time to miss something different to fill that void that we've created. But you're right, there is this other aspect where you have a spiritual family who you do have to invest in and you do have to spend time with. I never take it for granted that we get to do what we do. Like, it's super cool to me that God has called us to do something incredible for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of like how you talked about that you are missing stuff. You are, but you're always missing stuff. I mean, anytime you choose one thing or the other, if you go out to dinner, you're missing the game. If you stay in the game, you're missing, going out to dinner. You're always going to be missing something. But when I feel like with, the mission, being on work for God and, connecting with lost people, having that opportunity or being there when God changes their life, it's one of those things that I'm not going to regret missing out on that. And I don't want to live with any kind of regrets. And again, not that we take any of our family for granted and things like that, and we make time for them too. It's just, it's different. The reward is different. It's an eternal reward.
Yeah, and I don't want it to sound like we don't spend time with our family.
No, we spend a lot of time with our family.
We definitely do. But it is a different thing. And the hierarchy of our life is something that I think not a lot of people really contemplate and think through enough. What is non-negotiable? What is super important for your life, for your family? What are some things that you're really invested in that really could just be thrown away? For me, for years, I was an athlete. And so training was the only thing I cared about. Like, if I missed one, I would physically hurt because I didn't get to do whatever.
I never had that.
I know,
that
but
drive.
I had things I wanted to do, and I knew if I missed a training session, I was not moving forward to accomplish that goal, and so it would physically hurt me. But I realized over time I was placing my time and energy in the wrong spot, and so as time went on, and as I found the calling that God put on my life, it was easier for me to miss that training session because I had something more important to handle. Whereas in the past, I was like, I'm going to only do this. If I'm supposed to run for 2 hours, I'm going to run for 2 hours, and I'm not doing anything else. I'll make some time somewhere else for that thing. Because in my mind, it was the most important thing. And I think for a lot of people, it's my traditions are the most important thing. This is what defines me. And it's it's not. It's just what's important because you've never sat down and realized that, hey, I'm supposed to be doing this other thing that's incredible, but I'm not focused on what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm spending time on what's comfortable. Erwin McManus, who is one of my favorite teachers, speakers, whatever, nowadays preachers, he had a statement in a podcast I was listening to the other day. He said to make drastic change in your life, the pain of staying the same has to be less than the pain of not going and not doing the incredible thing. He didn't say incredible, but doing the new thing. And I think that's so true. It's we can get so comfortable and hey, Saturday at 2, we go to lunch. Sunday at 10, we go to church. 11:30, we're in Mexican restaurant. We get in this regimented system of life. And frankly, gosh, if you're one of those people who does that, I'm sorry, that's boring. It is. It's so boring. I love the fact that when I wake up in the morning, I'm not totally sure what I'm doing that day.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to work because I have a day job. I know I'm going to work for 8, 9 hours, 10 hours. But outside of that, I have no clue what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's great because I've gotten to meet so many cool people. Just in the last month, I've gotten to meet a professional bull rider, like legit professional bull rider. I got to meet one of the best tattoo artists in the world because I said yes. He just posted like, "Hey, if you can be here in 2 hours, I'll tattoo you." And I was like, "Yes." I got to meet one of the coolest music bloggers on earth. Like, I've just gotten to meet some really cool people just because when I wake up in the morning, I have a focus and it's to reach people. And so along the way, I'm meeting cool people who are doing cool things in the same mission field that I am.
Yeah.
And divine intervention, whatever it is, we're coming together and we're getting to meet and converse and do all these things. But if I was in my old life, I'd wake up in the morning at 5, it's time to go run. I'd sit down at my desk at 7, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm done. I'd go run again. Day's over. I eat dinner, I go to sleep.
Yeah.
The hierarchy changed. Like the mission changed. And it's just been incredible whenever you kind of open yourself up to something new and something different, get away from the tradition and get away from what's, comfortable and get into the uncomfortable and get into the unknown. Some crazy things can happen and some crazy cool things can happen.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who's like, well, how do I know if I'm doing the right thing, investing in the right thing? How do I know that I'm living a purposeful life for God? What would you say to somebody?
What's the thing that you're not doing that like it pains you to not do it? Like, I think that everybody has a thing. I don't think that everybody, truthfully, I don't think we're designed to just go through a 10-hour, 12-hour day and just do the same things over and over again. I think that's just what we're comfortable with doing. There's something like, for some people, it's like they really want to make a song. Like, they really want to write a song, they want to perform, but they've never taken one step forward to do that thing. Some people want to write a book, but they can't even sit down and write a chapter. Some people want to speak, but they never look for the opportunity to speak or to teach. And I think that everybody has that thing in their life that they think is maybe like a childish passion, or it's a whim that they just haven't really figured out how to, like, we live in this like microeconomic society where everybody has like a side hustle. And so they think like, oh, I'll do this thing until I make it big in this thing, and then that'll be my new job. And like, does it work for some people? Sure. But like, maybe you're supposed to just focus all of your time and energy into this thing. And so it pains you not to do it. And I think if you're one of those people and you have that thing that pains you that you're not doing it, like, that's how you know you're in the wrong spot, because your time and your energy, everything is being invested in the wrong place because you're supposed to be doing something else.
Well, do you think that could lead you somewhere that's not glorifying God? Like, I really want my kids to be pro athletes, so I'm going to put all my time and energy into investing in them becoming pro athletes.
That's different. Because what I'm talking about is I've seen parents who want their kids, they want it so bad for their kids, and the kids could absolutely care less about it. This is a personal decision. This is something that like you yourself internalizes. So if you're the dad who's pushing your son in baseball to the point where he's in tears, you're yelling at him, he doesn't want to do that thing. He may love to play baseball, but he may not have what it takes to be that elite pro athlete. That's a different thing. Like, to be not even elite, but just to be the best at something is such an insane, like, you have to dedicate everything to it. We were talking to the bull rider the other day. Brandon is his name, on the Pointman podcast, and like, just hearing him talk about, like, I could feel in his conversation he longed to do this thing. Like, every day he wanted to do that. He was still like, he's kind of retired, semi-retired now, and even in that, he was like uncomfortable because he's supposed to be on bulls and riding in this like pro arena. I think artists run into this too. Like, they're supposed to be drawing, and so like when they're not, it's painful. But if you're pushing somebody to do something, I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I think that's you trying to put your passions into somebody else. Like, if a kid wants to be elite, they will eat, sleep, and breathe this thing, because they can't live without it. It hurts them not to do it. But if you're having to force them to get up at 5 to go to practice, if you're having to force them to go in the kitchen and eat the right things, or if you're buying all the gear and they're not really interested when it comes home, like, that's not their passion. Maybe they're really into something else. and you're just pushing what you want them to be good at, and it's really not what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you got from that?
I guess more of the question I was asking is, what if you choose something
like you want to be the best stripper on earth?
No, but I mean, okay. Like, you're like, oh, I want to be my own business owner. And so you put everything into that, and you open your business on Sunday morning, and your business runs late on Wednesday, and now God's taken completely out of your life because you wanted to be a business owner, and now that's what you do. I don't
think they're mutually exclusive. I think there are people who run incredible businesses that are open on Sunday and they're open on Wednesday. I don't think you have to close them just because you're a believer. I think it's where your energy is focused. Like if you're in your business, you're glorifying God by the work you do. You're investing in the community of believers. Do you yourself need that? Yes. And so should you find a way to be a part of a community? 100%. But it's just like everything else in life. If you want to be the best, if you want your business to succeed, you have to invest everything in it. For us, we owned a CrossFit gym for a while, and we invested everything in it. We spent all of our time there. It was all of our brain power. Every family dinner was around how we could make it better. We even did these dumb videos just to try to. It was like
if you ever want to look up their videos, they're called Super Snatch Bros.
I don't know if there's any out there anymore, but we did these dumb videos just to get people talking about our gym. And we are not those people. We're pretty serious people, and so for us to do these dumb videos were just so silly. But we were willing to do everything. But the moment we realized that it wasn't what we were supposed to be doing, none of us had a problem shutting the doors. Like, is it sad that we lost our community of people that we were around? Sure, we'd invested and we'd spent time, but we were fine to leave it. If you want to build a business and you want to be successful, you have to invest everything. You have to go at it full force. Now, if it overtakes your relationship with God, we have a problem. Yeah. If it overtakes, if your mindset is not that I'm using this to glorify God in some way, then you've got a problem on your hands because your mind is taking you down a road that's just not. You're going to end up worshiping money. You're going to end up worshiping work. You're going to end up in a position where you're out of alignment with the hierarchy that. So back up a sec. So there's a hierarchy that's set. Mm-hmm. And that's that God's at the front of it, family, work. Like there's a hierarchy that's preset for your life. You don't get to adjust that piece of it. That hierarchy is there. It is where we start. Everything else falls in line after those three. So if you've taken work and you've elevated above family, problem. Yeah. If you've taken work and you've elevated above God, problem. Yeah. Same with passions. If you've taken passion, you've elevated above family, you got a problem. And you're going to feel it in your marriage too.
It's the same thing with your kids. If your kids come first above God or above your spouse, you're out of order. And when you're not in alignment with what God says the priorities are, as like things are not going to go how he wants them to. It's not going to be God's will and God's plan because you're out of order. So I guess the first step is to look at your life. Mm-hmm. Is God first in your life? Are you daily going to him, reading his word, praying to him, listening to him, planning your life according to his will? Mm-hmm. And then look at your relationship with your spouse. Like how much do I invest in my spouse? How much do I know about my spouse outside of how was your day? Okay, great. Mm-hmm. We talked about that in an episode or so ago, investing in your spouse. And look at your kids. It's great to, go and serve God with the world and stuff. It starts at home. Are you training your kids up in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it? Are you doing that with your family? And then after that is serving God. Like it's God, your spouse, your kids, and then, mm-hmm. your immediate family and like extended family and, serving God and things like that. So are you doing those in order? I think is usually the first place to look before you go out and find any new passions, ventures, start your own business, whatever.
Yes. And that's why I wanted to go back and put the hierarchy in place, because you have to understand that comes first. I'm talking about inside of that parameter and how that works. And so that's why when I can confidently say, if you want to be the best business owner you can be, you got to go for it. Mm-hmm. But it's inside of that parameter. So if you are out of alignment with God and you're trying to build this business, something's going to fall apart somewhere else in your life. For us, when we had a relationship prior to us accepting our calling and mission for God, our relationship would be strained at times because we would begin to put other things above it. because we didn't have a hierarchy for our life. We just kind of were like,
Yeah.
do whatever you want, figure it out. And with our kids, if I ever found myself where I was putting something else above my relationship with God and my relationship with you, then the way I interacted with my kids was off.
Yeah.
And so, but inside of your question, I was just saying that inside of that established hierarchy, like, you got to go for it. And if you feel the pain to do it, then do it. But like the quote was, I mean, if the pain is of not going isn't overwhelming, you staying where you're at in your life, you're never going to go.
Yeah.
You're going to be stuck.
Well, I think it's also good. Like I said, once you look at your priorities, you're like, okay, my relationship is where it's supposed to be with God and my spouse and my kids, and then now how can I serve God where I'm at? Like, am I serving God where I'm at? Is there more that I could be doing, and things like that? I think, one thing that I do is I look at my kids. Like, okay, if my kids, because we have a 17-year-old and a 2-year-old, so we can actually ask our 17-year-old, what have you learned from us? Like, our Ari, we're going to have to wait a little bit, until he gets older and be like, hey, what did you learn from us? Like, what did we really, like, what did we value? Like, what values did we pass on to you? And I know that when we first had our 17-year-old, when he was 13, we would always have to explain, like, why he has to serve on Sunday, why we're here for 8 hours on Easter and Christmas, and, why can he not work on Wednesdays? He could get so much more money if he could work Wednesday nights. Or, man, if he could go in early on Sundays, he would get more money. Like, can I skip this service and go? We had that. And, but this last year, he's had several jobs. I was like, we don't answer those questions anymore. We don't have that. Now, I don't know if that's just because he got sick of the same answer. I was like, which was the same answer we always give. God comes first. Sorry.
I think he learned.
Yeah, or he learned, this is what I do. This is what I do for my relationship with God, and this is what I do to serve people. Again, all he has is God and serving God, because he don't have a spouse. Doesn't have any kids we know about. I'm just kidding. He doesn't have any kids. So he just has God and he has serving him, which is a great and amazing place to be, because there's nothing between you and God right now. And so I would like to believe, and we can ask him. We can bring him on the podcast one time, because he's not really in bed, because he's 17. What did you learn from us? And I hope that when he goes on to college and he has his own family, like, this is what we do on Sundays. And again, not like a ritualistic thing, like, oh, I got to go check this off my box because mom and dad made me go to church. And it might be that way.
It can start that way.
It can start that way. But our prayer is that we haven't told him, like, you're just going to do this. There's no if and buts about it. Like, but he realized the importance of why you put God first in everything that you do.
Yeah, I think for when you're raising kids and you're trying to balance that out, I think at first it is like a discipline. And I think a lot of spiritual things start as a discipline. Like, before you can invest and understand why you're doing something, sometimes you just have to do it. I always tell people whenever I'm talking about Bible study, I'm like, hey, read everything, study something. So, like, I think the Bible in a year is a great process for people to just do regularly, even if you've read the Bible a million times, because it just gets you in the mode of every day I'm going to read something. But then I like to be studying something. If we're not in a semester or something where we're teaching and prepping to teach stuff, like right now, I've just been studying Romans, just the book of Romans. But I'm reading like a lot of other stuff, because it is a book. And I think that it is okay to treat it like a book in some aspects, but then to have the reverence that it's God's word and to study it. And so, but there's the discipline and the fact that every single day I'm opening it and I'm doing something in it. And I think whenever you're first raising kids and exposing them to faith, sometimes it's okay for it just to be a discipline. Like, hey, it's Sunday at 8, you're just going to be in church.
Yeah.
Like, why? Because I said so.
Yeah.
Like, don't negotiate with the terrorists. Just send them to church.
Yeah.
And then as they develop, like Hassan is spoken in church now, and he's not a perfect person. Like, he still makes mistakes. He's 17 and he's a kid and he's growing and he's finding his passions and the things that make him excited to wake up in the morning. But he also owns his faith now. And I don't think he would if you didn't make him go in the first place. Like, he had to go and he had to learn. That's going to make somebody mad, but get off it. I don't care.
Yeah. No, I fully, believe that, Ari goes to church with us. He goes into his Sunday school kids service class, sometimes he stays multiple times and things like that. And, some days he's not happy about it. He throws his little fit and he wants to come out of the room, and some days I let him. But most of the time he stays in there and he hears the same Bible lesson. I was like, but it's one of those things, there's no, we know the benefit, and we are so thankful that our parents did that, because it made they made the investment young, and we may not have understood it, but we understand it now. And so we're passing it on. We're leaving that legacy to our kids. So yeah, it is a little bit like, hey, you're just going to do this because I said so.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing about, hey, you're going to eat your veggies. Hey, you're not going to run the street. All those things we do are beneficial for our kids. And so a lot of the times I get from parents oh, well, they just don't want to go.
Who cares?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's okay. My kid, loves to throw toys, but I still tell him, no, you're not going to throw toys. You're going to play with it this way. You're not going to have the toys. So we make them go to school. My brother never wanted to go to school. I was my parents nah, that stinks. Yeah. You're still going. It's to be the same way about church. There's no better thing that you could ever do in your life than have a relationship with God. And a lot of times that fruit or that seed is built at church. I was like, it's dropped in there. And of course, there's the Holy Spirit that has to take, his part. Jesus has to knock on their hearts. I was like, a lot, unless you're talking and doing Bible studies and lessons at home with your kids, and every single day you're talking to them about God, I was like, that is happening. At least the church we attend.
Well, there's a whole episode in the conversation about the value of church. Yeah. It's immense. I just talked with someone for an hour about literally just a bullet point of why the church is good and why the church is important. Have there been people who have experienced hurt from the church? Sure. Someone's wronged you. The only perfect church is the one where everybody goes outside and locks the door behind them. It doesn't exist. And so are there human error inside of the walls of the church? Sure, but it's also the greatest volunteer force in human history.
Yeah.
It also creates some of the best art. It also creates some of the best musicians and some of the best speakers and communicators and thinkers in all of the world, because the church is established.
Yeah, and the church, the church as we think of it is a building full of broken people who make mistakes. So yes, sometimes as the church, we're going to make mistakes. I was like, but the church from God is his bride. I was like, in that church, I was like, has eternal love. It has the love of God. So you're never going to be loved more than the bride of Christ. I was like, so yes, we are people. We're going to fail. But the important thing is that God and something that he created is never going to fail.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's actually interesting in context of tradition and breaking tradition too, because I think that find a church where your kids like to be there. If you're the parent and if you're a man and you're leading your family correctly, find the church that's feeding your family. And so if the pastor on the front is not feeding the adults, then the kids aren't going to get fed either. Go to a new church. I'm not a fan of moving from church to church regularly, but if your family's not getting the word of God, the truth of God put into them and exposed to them top down, then you probably need to find a new place. Don't go to a church just because the kids ministry is the best and your kid's happy. The word of God's the most important piece of this. And so get rid of the traditions, get rid of the pomp and circumstance of church, and focus on the truth of God's word being taught, being heard, people coming to know him. That's where you should start, and then build off of that. But I say all that to say, if your kid's unhappy and you're okay with finding one where the kid might be happy, that may be worth the investment too, because your family needs it. And especially if you're not willing to step up and act like a man and lead your family faithfully, you might need to find someone who might take that role for you.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really know where we got off. Got off a little tangent there because we were talking about Easter lunch.
If you didn't know, we're passionate about church.
Yes, yes, we love church.
That thing that pains us when we wake up in the morning, it's reaching people.
Yeah, and it is. And like I said, if you don't know where to start, look at your priorities. Are they God, spouse, kids, and then serving God? And whatever passion or field that you are in or want to be in, you're called to love God and love others and serve him and bring him glory. But also look if I do want to serve at church, or if I want to go,
which I think everybody is supposed to serve in the church in some capacity. I don't think anyone is supposed to walk in here and leave. I think everybody who's is supposed to do something.
We're not consumers. We need to be an active part in the church. Now, that can look different for everybody. Like, it can be, someone behind the scenes or someone who serves throughout the week. It doesn't have to just be Sunday morning, you're in the kids area. That's how serving looks. Because it's definitely not how serving looks. It looks all different ways. And the
church is an ecosystem. Yeah. There's literally, if church is done right, I think there's a place for every single person to fit.
Yes.
The traditional model is there's a speaker, there's singers, there's ushers,
there's kids workers.
That's it.
Yeah.
But that's not church has the opportunity and the possibility to do all an immense number of things. And so it's an ecosystem that everybody can plug in and be a part of and to invest in and to serve through.
Yeah. I know that around Easter, like I said, I run the kids department at the church that we are at. And one of my favorite things to do, because we always need extra workers around Easter, is invite parents to come and serve. And I get such an outpouring from them because they're like, oh, I would love to come in the classroom. I would love to see, what's taught and help out and things like that. It gives them such a great opportunity as parents to see that, number one, we are teaching your kids God's word and we're teaching it straight from the Bible, but also for them to say, you can be a part of this, not necessarily in kids ministry, but you can have this in your life. And so if you look at your priorities, you're like, I'm not serving. I'm not doing anything to show the love of God to somebody, to talk to God about somebody, to serve somebody. A great place to start is your local church. Wherever you go to church or whatever church is closest, try that one out. Find a place to serve, step in, try different ministries. But that's a great place to start and to start serving God. And it's so rewarding. And if you're afraid of having those conversations, like, oh, we're going to be late for lunch because we were serving. I always tell people, you're not going to regret.
Yeah.
You're not going to regret that moment where you were, you were in a kid's classroom and God knocked on a kid's heart and he said yes, and you got to be there and watch that kid turn his life over to God. You're not going to be like, oh man, I really missed the turkey at lunch. It would have tasted so good at 12 and not at 2 when I got. You're not going to do that. In heaven, you might see that kid and be like, wow, you're not going to regret those moments. Or if you're, on a camera, like at the church that we're at, and you're recording a message and you see all those hands go up saying, I said yes to Jesus. You're not going to miss that. You're not going to miss, handing out coffee to someone who had a rough day and you say, hey, Jesus loves you, and hands them the coffee. You're not going to regret any of that. But you might regret all the time you spent not growing closer to God, not being on mission for him, not serving others. That you probably will regret.
Yeah, I agree. Let's put a bow on it. So is this something you've thought about or something you're just now thinking about because you watched this, which I hope is what happens with this podcast, is one, establish the hierarchy of your life. What's really important? What needs to be thrown away? An example for me is I threw away watching football. I just don't do it anymore.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. I if I do, it's super late at night after everybody's asleep and everything's done. But
but he's always the second person asleep beside our toddler. So.
Yes. And so it's very rare. God, family, then you can start to build your hierarchy out below that. But those are stuck at the top. You can't move them. So everything you do below that. If there is something in you that is just pulling at you, you cannot get rid of it, and it doesn't thwart the order of God and family, invest in it. Spend time in it. There's a reason it's there. Maybe God gave you an incredible gift to reach people through that. Or maybe he gave you an incredible gift to invest in his church. Or maybe he gave you an incredible gift to have a conversation you don't even see on the horizon because he knows what's going to happen anyway. Give it the energy that it deserves. Go after it. And if you're scared to have hard conversations with your family, I hate to tell you this, but you're just going to have to buck up.
Yeah.
You're going to have to buck up. You're going to have to understand what's important. You're going to have to be willing to stand on what's important, stand by what you feel you're supposed to be doing. You're going to have a hard conversation. Is someone going to be upset? Maybe. But I do think in our experience, too, over time, people have understood. Mm-hmm. And over time, people understand. They see what's going on. They see the work that's being done. They see the energy, and they see that thing that's pulling at us to do it. And they're fine with it. And I think that you'll find the same thing in your life. And if you don't, then sometimes, unfortunately, things like that happen.
Yeah, sometimes some amazing things happen. And some of our family, or even on mission with us. And so they are also having the 2 p.m. lunch or the Easter Monday night dinner and things like that. I was like, so we've been blessed in that instance. Not that we were necessarily the start of that and things like that. I was like, but God.
Our parents invested in us heavily.
Yeah. No, sometimes you have to, God just asks us to put the seeds out there and let it wait patiently for the harvest. And we've seen that in a lot of our family members and stuff like that. But so, yeah, just have the conversation and, come at it from, am I glorifying God by doing this or by doing this?
Is there something I'm supposed to be doing?
And, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what's best for my relationship with God, for my spouse, for my family? And if the answer is yes, do it.
Yep.
Do it, no matter the consequence, because the way this world's going, there'll be a lot tougher conversations to have than we're going to be a little late to Easter lunch.
That is a great point and a great way to end the night.
All right.
But thank you, everyone, for watching, for hanging out. Make sure you like and subscribe. We have been so thankful, I think, for the feedback we've received for the first couple of episodes. And we honestly, prayerfully do pray that this is something that is beneficial. It's not self-serving. It actually is more work to do it. And it's later.
Most things that we do.
And it's later than I want it to be right now.
Yeah.
So we really do pray that it's beneficial in some way and helping you in some way. Navigate aspects of relationships, parenting, family, faith, life, whatever it is that you're dealing with. Hopefully we'll.
Yeah, and so we always ask a question at the end. Did you have a question, or do you want me to do one?
Do you have one?
I can. Yeah.
Oh, I have one.
Okay, we'll go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, comment the thing that you were the most passionate about in your life.
That's what I was gonna
do. Yeah, comment the thing that you were the most passionate about in all of your life.
Are you gonna put me?
Yes. No, I'm not. Hierarchy, baby. God, family.
God, spouse, family.
Yeah, it's still,
I'm number 2.
It's in there. I lumped them together. You're right.
Oh.
Your spouse does come before your kids.
Yes. Don't lump them together.
Anyway, we will see you next time. Good night.
Yes, good night.